From the News Channel 5 Network, this is SportsLine.
Hey there, SportsLine on your television. Steve Layman here with you. Glad you are here with us on this Tuesday night on News Channel 5 Plus. Lots of football ahead. The Titans lose in Week 1, 38-13 to the Arizona Cardinals. We'll get into that with more reaction. We'll hear from Mike Vrabel, his summation the day after the game, as they now look forward to Seattle and try to get things fixed. We can also talk some college football in this hour as well. Tennessee with a difficult game against Pitt, falling 41-34 on Saturday at Neyland Stadium. And then Vanderbilt breaking through out in the mountains against Colorado State. Joseph Bulovas, the SEC Special Teams Player of the Week, with a 38-yard field goal in the final minute of that game as Vanderbilt won 24-21. The breakthrough victory for Clark Lee, the Commodores' new head coach, as he gets his first victory as the head coach on West End. Now it's a chance to try to build on that as they move forward. Our phone lines are open, 737-7767. If you want to talk about those teams, any of the other local teams, talk some college football around the nation or the NFL schedule as well. But let's begin again with the Titans and the disappointment of Sunday of just not being able to come out and capitalize on what seemed like a great offseason for them. With this offense coming back largely intact, the addition of Julio Jones, and the hope that they could build on the 30 points per game that they put up last season, and then couple that with a defense that was supposed to be improved given what they did in the offseason to that side of the ball after all of the struggles last year. We didn't see that on Sunday. We saw an offense that struggled to click right from the very get-go. There were lots of negative yardage plays in the running game, which is not typical for this team. We saw 6 sacks last year. The most they had at any point in time was 3 on 2 different occasions. They had 6 in Game 1 on Sunday. 2 of those turned into fumbles from Ryan Tannehill, who also threw an interception in the second half of that game. So you lose the turnover battle in a big way. You got a punt partially deflected, and you got 2 missed kicks, which led ultimately to the release of kicker Michael Bagley on Monday. Missed an extra point. He also missed a field goal late in the first half that really kind of put momentum on the side of Arizona. And then defensively, 418 yards allowed, 38 points on the scoreboard. And the big thing they had talked about in the offseason was being better on third down. And they couldn't get off the field. Titans allowed Arizona to go 7 of 13 on third downs on Sunday. That's just not going to work. Last year they were above 50% of opponents converting on third down. That was the same case again on Sunday. It can't work that way. They've got to be better. They understand it, but they were not that way in week number 1. So now the question is, can they fix it all for week 2? And the other question that I think you have to ask, although it doesn't really do you much good now, is whether it was because of the injuries, whether it was because of guys on the COVID list, or maybe even the philosophy to a degree of not pressing guys into action either for practice or for game reps in the preseason. Was this team unprepared for the first game of the regular season? Because it sure looked like Arizona was ready to go. That was a team that was well coached, well prepared, and got an effort that looked like regular season NFL football. I don't think you saw that from the Titans on Sunday. And I think the Titans are a good team. I think they're going to win a lot of games and play well throughout the course of this season. But on Sunday, they were clearly not a team clicking it the way you have to perform to win and have success in the NFL. Arizona was. And I think even when you look around the league at some other teams, like Green Bay really didn't play anybody in the preseason, they got housed by the Saints. And New Orleans, oh, by the way, has been moving around the last couple of weeks around the country and had to play a home game in Jacksonville because of the effects of Hurricane Ida in New Orleans. But what did they do in the preseason? They played guys. Jameis Winston had to win a quarterback competition by playing in games. He comes out and he throws for 5 touchdown passes. I think you saw a clear delineation for the most part between teams that really put no emphasis on the preseason and teams that put some emphasis or had to put some emphasis on the preseason. I think the teams that did a little bit in the preseason, had some guys play, had them get some live reps, I think they largely played better on Sunday. And it'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward, because remember last year, there was absolutely no preseason at all. So everybody was on equal footing when you got to week 1, game 1. And I think because pretty much every team went out and it was hard to know whether the lack of preseason work hurt you or helped you because the other team was in the exact same boat. You just looked at week 1 and said, okay, we performed well or we didn't perform well. We won the game or we didn't win the game. And I think perhaps there was this misconception around the league that maybe we can get away with not really having the typical workload that guys have always done. Maybe we can get away with not even having to throw the starters out there for a game or for multiple series. Because remember, in the old preseason format, when you had 4 games, the starters pretty much went out there for an entire half in the 3rd preseason game, sometimes into the 2nd half. And oftentimes they would play a drive, maybe 2 drives in another game or 2. Well, then last year you have no preseason, and this year you had several teams kind of look at it and say, okay, we're not going to use the preseason for game reps either. And again, when it comes to the Titans, some of that was dictated by injuries. Julio Jones obviously got hurt in training camp. He was working his way back from that. You had A.J. Brown nursing some things throughout training camp. You had Taylor Lewan coming back from the torn ACL last year. So their limited reps all had to do with health concerns. You had Ryan Tannehill on the COVID list. You had Ben Jones on the COVID list. You had Nate Davis on the COVID list. So all of them missed some action because of the weird spot we are in the world right now. But then you have a guy like Derrick Henry who's fully healthy, who's totally available throughout the entire time, and they just chose not to play him. So again, I don't know what the overriding factor here was, whether it was the health, whether it was the guys going on the COVID list, maybe a combination of those two, and then they just said, well, why would we throw another guy out there if it's not going to be the full unit anyway? Or maybe there was a level of, this is our philosophy now, given what we saw last year. We'll be fine in week 1. Whatever it was, it didn't work. And now the concern has to be, if you're a Titans fan, you've got a difficult game Sunday in Seattle against the Seahawks team that looked great in Indianapolis. Russell Wilson threw for 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, spread the ball around to those wide receivers who are so dangerous. The offense was explosive. They ran the ball when they needed to as well. And the Seahawks are always a solid defense. And you go out there and play in one of the most difficult environments in all of the NFL to play in. That's the challenge this week. You know you have to be better than you were Sunday against Arizona. You're probably going to have to be even better than that given the challenge in front of you. Can you fix all those things in 1 week's time? Can you do it in 3 days of practice? That is the million-dollar question facing the Titans right now as they get set for this trip to the West Coast coming up this weekend. Our phone lines are open. 737-7767 is the number. Always welcome your thoughts on this. But we begin tonight with our final reaction from the Electric Power Company Sunday Sports Central the other night. John Burton, myself, along with Jonathan Hutton of Outkick, and Keith Bullock, the former Titan great, looking at some of your reaction to the game and trying to look ahead. How important is this week for the Titans? 0-1 was frustrating. You don't want to start 0-2. But is this a must-win for the Titans right now? Back with Jonathan Hutton and Keith Bullock now. Reaction to this game came in fast and furious today, guys. I mean, Titans Twitter was ready to run straight for the ledge and jump in the middle of the first quarter. Friday Dog tweeted, Chase Edmonds from D2 Fordham outrushes Derrick Henry, and rookie Rondale Moore had twice the yards of Julio Jones. The Titans are overrated, but the Nashville media will still kiss up to them. Jay Hutt, did we overrate the Titans?
No, not yet. We haven't. And this is not me kissing up to the Titans. This is 1 week, though. I will say this, and I agree with Vrabel. They need to stop thinking about playing good and actually play good. This is a team that just showed up to Nissan Stadium and didn't do much else. So I'm with you on the effort today, but this is a long season, which a lot of ebbs and flows. We're going to see that going into week 2.
Meanwhile, Eldon tweets, the offensive line dealt with injuries, COVID, and never had a clear-cut right tackle. Keith, how much did the disjointed preseason impact this offensive line, and can they get it fixed by next week?
Yeah, they have plenty of time to get it fixed. I don't know if it'll be by next week, but I can guarantee it'll be a better product next week. One thing about the offensive line, it takes a lot of cohesion. You know, it's not going to come with one game. So with that being said, to everything you said, the problems in the offseason, they have to work through those week after week during the football season now. And with the extra game this year, I think they have plenty of time to get it right.
Yeah, the Titans weren't the only team with high expectations to lose today. Several of the so-called contenders had a dud in week 1. But how critical now is it, guys, that they avoid 0-2 next week in Seattle?
From a morale standpoint, it's very critical. You know, you never want to start an 0-4. You never even want to start 0-1. But for morale, it's critical. At the end of the day, they just need to keep on playing. Win, lose, or draw. They're in it together. The only noise that they hear is the noise that's coming from their coaches and their players. So forget about the media and all that stuff and just go out and play.
I agree with what Keith is saying, guys, and I'll add to it. It's a critical week 2, but the 17th game adds a wrinkle to all of this, because in the past, only 12% of the teams that started 0-2 actually went on to make the postseason. Now with the added game, they have a little bit more flexibility. But keep in mind, this is a Seattle team that is even more explosive than the Arizona team that they faced today. They averaged 1 yard more per play than the Cardinals did today against the Titans as the Seahawks played the Colts in Indy. This is no cakewalk as they go on the road. And there does need to be a sense of renewed focus and energy as they go back to work tomorrow and Tuesday.
They definitely got to get much better quickly, even if there are 16 more games to go. Jonathan Hutton, Keith Bullock in Super Bowl form already on night 1. We appreciate your time.
All right.
Yeah, good stuff right there. Of course, the Titans with a difficult challenge this week in Seattle. Kickoff on Sunday, 3:25 from Layman Field in Seattle against the Seahawks. You can watch it over on News Channel 5. The big question, how do you get that swagger back that you were walking into the season? Then you just got punched in the mouth in week 1. You were down 17-0 just over 16 minutes into the game, and you never really got going in a 38-13 loss. Never caught up to the 17-0 deficit, never got back in the game. How do you get it going? How do you get that mojo back before you head out for one of the most difficult road tests that the Titans will have the entire season? Phone lines are still open, 737-7767. All the lines are empty, so you got a short wait. If you'd like to get in on the program, please do. Call us up. We will get to more of your phone calls, and we will hear from Mike Vrabel ahead. This is SportsLine on News Channel 5+.